And we're back, moving on to American football and a little recap of Wednesday's game. And before I talk about the game, we have to talk about the overarching storyline of why the game was played on a Wednesday in the afternoon. So the Ravens-Steelers game, obviously the Ravens had COVID and that kept postponing the game. But it really, this is an example of how powerful TV broadcasters are in the USA. So NBC, who has the rights to this game, also on Wednesday night, we're going to have the lighting of the Rockefeller tree in New
Sorry,
York
that's
City.
Tuesday night, you mean?
Wednesday, because the game got postponed to Wednesday. And so NBC had the lighting of the Rockefeller tree on Wednesday night. So they made the NFL play the Ravens-Steelers game Wednesday afternoon.
My mistake.
Yeah. So it just goes to show you that like the TV broadcasters can basically be like, no, this is our money. We're going to play the game wherever we want. And so it's this really bizarre Wednesday afternoon football game, which like I've never seen before. And of course the game ended up not being, it was a defensive slugfest as you might expect. And the Steelers ended up winning 19-14. But the biggest story I think was the Ravens weren't playing with their full roster and they put up a hell of a fight. And so you have to commend them for that. And then the most important part of that game was the GOAT himself finally getting into game action, Trace McSorley, the TikTok legend. He now leads the NFL in quarterback rating with 1 touchdown pass, no interceptions. And so I just have a quick
100%.
tribute. Yeah, just have a quick tribute to my man. So thank you to Trace for just making my life a little bit better on a Wednesday afternoon. And honestly, I think they should just cut Lamar Jackson at this point because he's not needed anymore.
How'd you find the Wednesday afternoon game just as a consumer?
Well, I missed the first bit of it because I had class, which I mean, a lot of people could say as well because they'd probably be at work. So in that regards, it's a little bit frustrating because no one has the time really to watch a game starting at 3:30 in the afternoon on a work day. And I just, it's tough in this like 2020 environment, COVID, all that. It's tough to really put a feeling on the game because it was so once in a million game where you had a team that's operating with 80% of its full roster and guys are recovering from a virus that we've never seen before. And it's playing at a time that's never been played at before. So it was really just a weird game overall. And you can tell with the fact that there was a ton of turnovers and not a lot of scoring. But the biggest thing to highlight is just the Steelers keep on winning, right? They're undefeated still, 11-0. And even in these weird games they've had, the Titans earlier in the year had COVID, so that game got moved around. And the Steelers just keep showing up and managing to pull out games, which is really impressive. And looking forward, their next 2 games against Washington and Buffalo, those are winnable games for them. I think the Buffalo game is going to be really, really exciting and really fun to see because it's in Buffalo. Who knows? Might be snowing. We'll get a snow football game. And so that's the one I have circled. If Pittsburgh's going to lose any of their remaining games, it'll most likely be that Buffalo game. So that'll be exciting to see moving forward.
And I remember in one of the last weeks, you said if Baltimore loses this game, their playoff chances are going to be severely hurt. Can you tell me about that for a sec?
Yeah, so Baltimore now moves to 6-6, I believe, on the season. And the 3 playoff teams the 3 wildcard teams are Cleveland, Indianapolis, and Miami. And the Indianapolis and Miami are 7-4. So the Ravens have a shot, but I think to get into the wild card this year, you're gonna have a record of 10-6, and the Ravens still have 1 or 2 tough games left on their schedule. So it's gonna be really interesting to see. And I just don't know. It feels like a lot of defenses have them figured out this year. So it's really gonna be tough for them to sneak their way into the playoffs, and they're gonna really have to rely on probably Miami dropping out of that race. Because I think Cleveland, they still play the 2 New York teams left, so they're going to get to 10 wins. And then Indianapolis still plays Jacksonville and Houston, and those are some wins for them as well. So it's going to have to be Baltimore or Miami kind of in that last spot. And I think the Ravens have their work cut out for them.
Sounds like the potential for a real like hero climb story.
Yeah, it's they're going to have to change something because right now defenses know what they're doing, and I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but it could lead to more of a comeback story for Lamar after he's now continued to struggle to perform in big games, and they've had this whole breakdown of a team this year. They could come back and be something special next year, and that's probably what they'll need to work towards.
All right, keep my eye on that. What else you got your eye on in the meantime for in the world of football?
Yeah, so we didn't have a Thursday night game because they had to shift everything around with the Wednesday night game. So this week on the NFL slate, we have 2 Monday games and a Tuesday game, not to mention all the Sunday games. And so that'd be exciting. And the 3 games I kind of have circled, it's not the best slate this week in terms of like big primetime marquee matchup games. So the actual, like the number 1 game I'm most excited to see is the Titans and the Browns, who I don't know if that's ever been a marquee matchup, but the Browns are 8-3. The Titans are also 8-3, and it's going to be a battle of 2 super physical teams who love to run the ball. So it may not be the most exciting game, but it's definitely going to be an indicator of where these kind of 2 competitors are in the AFC. And right now, the Titans are favored by 5.5, and I'm picking the Titans to win, but I'm going to take the Browns to cover because Cleveland, it seems this year, never plays a game where they either win or lose by more than 3. So they always play in some tight games, and I think that's how it's going to end up. Really important thing here is if Myles Garrett is back, he's a top 3 defensive player in the league. So if he's back, that's really going to help the Browns in trying to stop Derrick Henry because, as I've mentioned, he's really hard to stop later in the season. The other games I'm looking at, there's a NFC West matchup that is exciting with the Rams and the Cardinals. I don't really know what to expect out of the Cardinals. They've been on and off, and they're a super Hail Mary play to DeAndre Hopkins away from being 500. And so I think the Rams here just have the higher quality team and a better defense. And Kyler, if his shoulder's still bothering him, he's going to struggle. And this Rams team can really get to the quarterback. So I have the Rams here picked to cover and to win in this game. And then the final one that I'm looking at is a Monday game between the Buffalo Bills and the San Francisco 49ers because San Fran has got a lot of their players back after they had that bye week 2 weeks ago, and they had a really big win against the Rams, and they're still in this playoff picture despite like losing half their team earlier in the season to injuries or COVID. And so this game, because of the restrictions placed on Santa Clara County in California, the 49ers actually are playing this home game in Arizona's stadium. They had to move stadiums. And so that is we'll see how that affects their play because they're a home team, but they're not really at home, right? So it'll be interesting to see. And I have the Buffalo Bills here covering and winning as well because I believe they are just getting a point right now on the spread. And that, besides that, there's not a ton of really exciting games, but I'll be back on Monday to give a recap of how the playoffs pictures are spreading up. Last thing before we take a quick break, my fantasy sleeper of the week, it's got to go to Hunter Renfrow of the Vegas Raiders, mostly because they're playing the Jets, and the Jets are really bad. But he's their third down guy. He's kind of like Cooper Kupp for the Rams, and he got a bunch of targets last week, and I think they're really going to have to lean on him down the stretch because he's a really important guy to keep their offense moving. And this is a must-win game for them. So I think he's going to get a lot of touches, and that equates to some good fantasy points. So we'll take a quick break, and Max will be back with his combat corner.